In the summer of 1982, 13-year-old Clara Bennett vanished after chasing down the neighborhood ice cream truck. For 15 years, her case went cold until a demolition crew broke through a sealed wall and found what no one was supposed to see. The Maple Street renovation crew didn't expect to find anything unusual that September morning in 1997. Just another foreclosure job in Pine Haven. Then Mike Hawkins's sledgehammer broke through a section of drywall that shouldn't have been there. Behind it, a hidden door with 3 heavy locks. "Hey, Frank!" "Come look at this," Mike called, wiping sweat from his brow, dust clinging to his damp t-shirt. Frank approached, flashlight beam cutting through the dusty air. "That's not on the blueprints." He ran his calloused fingers along the edge of the door, tracing the unusual seam. "Someone went to a lot of trouble to hide this." They called the foreman, a heavy-set man named Gus, who'd been in construction for 30 years. His weathered face creased with concern as he examined their discovery. "Call the bank manager," he ordered. "This ain't right." 3 hours and 1 locksmith later, they finally got it open. The stench hit them first, damp and sour, tinged with something worse. The locksmith backed away, covering his nose. "I'm done here," he muttered, retreating up the stairs. Frank's flashlight illuminated the darkness inch by inch. A cramped room with a stained mattress, bucket toilet, and thousands of tally marks scratched into concrete walls. The marks formed neat groups of 5, methodically covering nearly every surface. "Jesus Christ," Frank whispered, backing away. "This is some horror movie shit." Mike stepped forward, his work boot nudging something on the floor. A silver bracelet engraved Clara lay atop a stack of notebooks, the metal tarnished, but still catching the dim light. His hands trembled as he opened the top one, turning to the final entry, dated just 2 weeks earlier. Day 5479. I still dream of ice cream. Mike dropped the notebook as if it had burned him. "Call the police," he said, his voice barely audible. "Now." Pine Haven was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, where children played freely on tree-lined streets until street lights flickered on, signaling time to head home. In August 1982, kids still rode bikes without helmets, front doors remained unlocked, and parents worried more about skinned knees than strangers with candy. The town square featured a gazebo where the community band played every Sunday afternoon in summer. Main Street boasted locally owned shops, Duke's Diner, Henderson's Hardware, Freddy's Ice Cream Parlor, where proprietors knew customers by name and often kept accounts for regular patrons to settle at month's end. Pine Haven Elementary served kindergarten through 8th grade in a brick building with a copper bell tower, while teenagers attended regional high school 15 minutes away in Westville. 13-year-old Clara Bennett was the pride of Sycamore Lane with her raven hair, bright eyes, and boundless energy. She'd inherited her father's quick wit and her mother's artistic talent, combining them into a creativity that spilled into everything she touched, from the elaborate stories she wrote in spiral notebooks to the intricate friendship bracelets she wove for her classmates. Robert Bennett, a mechanic at Davis Auto Repair, was known throughout town for his honest assessments and fair pricing. With strong hands perpetually stained with engine grease and a booming laugh that filled any room, he coached Little League on weekends and volunteered with the Volunteer Fire Department. Linda Bennett taught 3rd grade at Pine Haven Elementary, where her classroom was recognizable by the colorful student artwork covering every wall. The Bennetts had raised their only daughter in a modest 2-story home with blue shutters and a tire swing in the front yard. The quintessential American family in a quintessential American town. She was always moving, Linda would later tell reporters, her hands twisting a tissue as she spoke, always laughing, like she couldn't contain all the joy inside her. She'd dance around the kitchen while I made dinner, making up songs about whatever we were having. "Meatloaf, meatloaf, yummy in my tummy," she demonstrated with a sad smile, just so full of life. The summer of '82 was particularly hot, the kind of heat that made asphalt sticky and tempers short. Sprinklers hissed across yellowing lawns, and children flocked to the lake or the community pool, their skin turning golden brown beneath the relentless sun. But the real highlight was the new ice cream truck that appeared each afternoon, its cheerful jingle a soundtrack to carefree days. The white van with blue trim and cartoon ice cream cones painted on the sides was an immediate sensation. The driver, who introduced himself as Mr. Frost, became a friendly fixture with his handlebar mustache and generous scoops. He learned children's names quickly, remembered their favorite flavors, and occasionally surprised regulars with free upgrades to waffle cones. He gave extra sprinkles to kids who said please, remembered Jenny Wilson, Clara's best friend since kindergarten, twirling a strand of blonde hair around her finger as she recalled that summer. All the parents thought he was great. My mom even invited him to our block party, but he said he had another rote that evening. Clara's summer days followed a comfortable routine. Mornings in the summer reading program at the library, where she devoured books far above her grade level. Afternoons with Jenny catching frogs at Henderson Creek or trading friendship bracelets on Jenny's porch, their fingers deftly weaving colorful threads while they gossiped about classmates and planned their futures. The girls had grand plans for 8th grade starting in September, trying out for cheerleading, sitting at the cool table in the cafeteria, maybe even talking to boys. Clara wanted to be a writer, Jenny said, her eyes distant with memory. She carried this little notebook everywhere, jotting down story ideas, descriptions of people she saw, bits of conversation she overheard. She was good at noticing things other people missed, like how Mr. Peterson at the pharmacy always hummed when counting pills, or how Mrs. Fitzgerald touched her wedding ring whenever she mentioned her late husband. August 12, 1982, dawned like any other summer day. The thermometer outside the Bennett kitchen window already read 82 degrees by 7 a.m., promising another scorcher. Linda Bennett packed a tuna sandwich for her husband's lunch, watered her wilting geraniums, and made a mental note to pick up milk before dinner. Clara slept late, as teenagers do, finally emerging around 10 with sleep-tousled hair and bare feet. "Can I go to the library with Jenny?" Clara asked, pouring Cheerios into a chipped blue bowl at the kitchen counter, her copy of The Outsiders propped open beside her. "Sure, honey. Be home by 4. Your dad's making his famous burgers tonight." Linda pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead, inhaling the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "And wear shoes, please. The pavement's hot enough to fry an egg." Clara spent the morning poring over Nancy Drew mysteries in the library's air-conditioned quiet, then met Jenny for lunch at Duke's Diner, where they shared a basket of fries and chocolate milkshakes. The ancient ceiling fans barely stirred the humid air as they giggled over inside jokes and debated which new kids on the block member was cutest. Around 3, they heard the familiar melody of The Entertainer drifting down Maple Street, the tinny music cutting through the afternoon haze. "Ice cream!" Clara exclaimed, patting her shorts pockets. "Shoot, I'm broke." "Me too," Jenny sighed, turning her pockets inside out for emphasis. "Mom said I've had enough sugar this week anyway." Clara's eyes lit up, that familiar spark of determination that Jenny knew well. "I'll run home and ask Mom. Wait for me!" "Just get me a rocket pop if she says yes," Jenny called after her, settling onto the curb to wait, drawing patterns in the dirt with a stick. Clara dashed the 3 blocks to Sycamore Lane, her sneakers slapping against the sidewalk. Neighbors would later remember seeing her run past, Mrs. Abernathy watering her roses, Mr. Simmons washing his Buick, the Taylor twins playing with a garden hose. Just another summer day, just another teenage girl racing towards something sweet. She burst through the front door, letting the screen door slam behind her, a habit that usually earned a gentle scolding. "Mom, the ice cream truck is coming. Can I have $1?" Clara stood in the kitchen doorway, slightly breathless, dark hair escaping from her ponytail. Linda looked up from the stack of math worksheets she was preparing for the upcoming school year, red pen in hand. "Didn't you just have a milkshake?" She raised an eyebrow, trying to look stern, but failing. "Please?" Clara drew out the word, bouncing on her toes. "It's like 1,000,000 degrees outside, and Jenny wants a rocket pop. I'll share my allowance with you on Saturday," she offered, deploying her most winning smile. Linda laughed, reaching for her purse on the counter. $1, she said, pressing the bill into Clara's palm. "And be home by 4, remember? Dad's been marinating those burgers all day." "Thanks, Mom." "Love you," Clara called over her shoulder, already halfway out the door, the screen slamming again behind her. Linda walked to the front window, watching her daughter skip down the sidewalk toward the familiar melody, her ponytail bouncing with each step. Clara turned once to wave, her smile visible even from a distance. It was the last time she would see her daughter for 15 years. If you enjoy fictional mysteries like this one, hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. By 6:30 that evening, Linda Bennett felt the first flutters of concern. Clara was rarely late, and never without calling. The burgers were ready, the table set, the sun beginning its slow descent. She phoned Jenny's house, twisting the coiled cord around her finger as she waited. "She's not with you?" Linda asked, her voice tightening. "When did you last see her?" "She left me at the ice cream truck, said she'd be right back." Jenny's voice sounded small. "That was around 3, I think. I waited for like 20 minutes, then figured she got caught up doing something at home." Linda hung up and called Robert at the garage. "She's probably lost track of time," he assured her, though a note of worry had crept into his voice. "I'll be home in 15 minutes. 7:15. Robert arrived home, his hands still stained with engine grease despite his hasty washing. "She's probably at Kim's house," he said, but his eyes betrayed his worry. He grabbed his keys and headed back out to drive through the neighborhood, checking all of Clara's usual haunts: the creek, the code playground, the old oak tree where the girls had built a rudimentary fort. By 8 o'clock, he had visited every friend's house, finding only concerned parents and increasingly frightened peers. No one had seen Clara since she'd left for home to get ice cream money. 8:45. Officer James Mercer took down the initial report at the Bennett kitchen table. Young and earnest, with a notebook open before him, he spoke in the measured tones of someone trained to project calm. "We don't typically consider someone missing until 24 hours have passed," he explained gently. "But I understand your concern. We'll start looking right away. Can you give me a description? What was she wearing today?" Linda's hands trembled as she handed over a school photo taken the previous spring. "Blue shorts," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "A white t-shirt with a rainbow on it. White sneakers. Her hair was in a ponytail with a yellow scrunchie. And she has a small birthmark on her right shoulder," Robert added, "shaped kind of like Florida, and a scar on her knee from falling off her bike last year." Midnight, 30 volunteers combed the neighborhood with flashlights, calling Clara's name into the darkness. Long beams of light swept across backyards, vacant lots, drainage ditches. The Bennetts sat on their porch, jumping at every approaching footstep, every car door that slammed in the distance. Linda clutched Clara's teddy bear, Mr. Buttons, she'd named him at age 4, while Robert paced, stopping occasionally to comfort his wife before resuming his restless movement. "She's smart," Robert kept saying. "She's smart and strong. She knows to find a police officer if she's lost." By morning, the search had expanded. State police joined local officers, bringing additional resources and expertise. Helicopters scanned nearby woods and fields, their rhythmic thumping a constant reminder of ongoing efforts. Clara's school photo, her wide smile revealing a slight gap between her front teeth, appeared on telephone poles, store windows, and later, milk cartons distributed across 3 counties. The initial investigation focused on the ice cream truck. Multiple witnesses confirmed Clara had approached it around 3:30, purchasing a cherry popsicle. Jenny reported that Clara had gone back to the truck a second time after getting money from home. Police located Mr. Frost, whose real name was Edward Thompson, a 42-year-old seasonal worker with no criminal record. His alibi checked out perfectly. He was serving ice cream in neighboring Westville by 5 p.m., confirmed by dozens of witnesses, including a Westville police officer who'd bought cones for his children. The truck underwent forensic examination, revealing nothing but sticky residue and lost coins in the crevices of the serving counter. "It was the first time my suspicions were brushed aside," Robert Bennett would later recall, his weathered face tight with remembered frustration. "But not the last. I kept saying, 'Check the ice cream man again. Something's not right.' But they'd moved on to other theories." Robert became obsessive, retracing possible routes Clara might have taken, questioning and re-questioning everyone who might have seen her. He took a leave of absence from the garage, then quit entirely when his boss suggested he needed to move on. He plastered the Tri-County area with posters, organized weekend search parties, and appeared on regional news stations pleading for information. Linda fell apart differently, heavily medicated, moving through their suddenly empty house like a ghost, unable to pass Clara's bedroom without dissolving into tears. She took a semester's leave from teaching, then tried to return only to break down when a student with long dark hair raised her hand from the back row. "We grieved differently," Linda explained years later, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "That was the problem. I couldn't bear his constant searching, his theories, his refusal to accept what everyone was saying, that she was probably gone forever. And he couldn't understand why I couldn't keep fighting. He saw my medication as giving up. I saw his obsession as denying reality." The investigation expanded to known offenders within a 100-mile radius, drifters who'd passed through town that summer, even Clara's teachers and friends' parents. Interviews yielded nothing useful. No suspicious characters had been reported in the area. No one had noticed anything unusual except for the ice cream truck itself, which had appeared with no advance notice in June and departed just as suddenly after Clara's disappearance. A potential witness claimed seeing Clara enter a blue sedan, but later recanted when the description proved inconsistent with known facts. Another reported strange noises from Henderson Woods, leading to another fruitless search that found only teenagers' beer cans and a makeshift campsite long abandoned. Pine Haven transformed. Parents escorted children everywhere, organizing elaborate carpools and buddy systems. Doors were locked, blinds drawn at dusk. The ice cream truck never returned. Thompson reportedly sold it after receiving threatening calls. Pine Haven's innocence shattered like a mirror, leaving only distorted reflections of the close-knit community it had been. "We all lost something when Clara disappeared," recalled Pastor Jim Reynolds, who'd led community prayer vigils for weeks afterward. "Not just a child, but our sense of safety, our trust in each other. Suddenly, neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. Was it you? Could it have been you who took her?" As months passed, investigators exhausted all leads. The case file thinned from an overstuffed binder to a slim folder. Officer Mercer, haunted by failure, visited the Bennetts monthly with no news to share, bringing casseroles his wife made, and sitting with them in increasingly uncomfortable silence. The hardest part, Mercer admitted years later, was watching their hope fade. First it was, "Have you found her?" Then, "Any new leads?" Eventually, they stopped asking altogether. Robert and Linda divorced after 2 years, the strain too great. Their grief pulled them in opposite directions, Robert into frenetic activity, Linda into withdrawal. The final argument erupted when Robert discovered Linda had packed away Clara's belongings. "She's not coming back," Linda had screamed, her first display of raw emotion in months. "We need to accept that and try to live again." "I will never stop looking," Robert had responded, his voice deadly quiet. "Never." Robert stayed in Pine Haven, maintaining Clara's room exactly as she left it, posters of Madonna and Michael Jackson on the walls, a half-finished friendship bracelet still threaded on its loom, her diary tucked beneath her pillow. Linda moved to her sister's house in Ohio, unable to face the daily reminders of what she'd lost. "It's not that I stopped loving him," Linda said. "I just couldn't watch him destroy himself anymore, and he couldn't forgive me for what he saw as giving up. We both lost Clara, but we also lost each other." What would you do if you were leading this investigation? Share your thoughts below. The calendar pages turned. 1985, 1988, 1991. Pine Haven slowly returned to normal, though Clara's disappearance left an invisible scar on the community's psyche. New families moved in, unaware of the tragedy, until someone whispered the story at a PTA meeting or neighborhood barbecue. That's Robert Bennett, newcomers would hear. Lost his daughter years ago. Never been the same since. Robert Bennett aged rapidly. His once dark hair turned steel gray by 40, deep lines etched around his mouth and eyes. His obsession wore paths between home, the police station, and the library, where he scoured newspapers for similar cases, compiling binders of information that no one but he ever reviewed. His garage apartment became a makeshift investigation center, walls covered with maps, timelines, and photographs connected by red string, a physical manifestation of his refusal to let go. Each year on Clara's birthday, August 28th, he sat alone at Freddy's ice cream parlor downtown, ordering 2 scoops of mint chocolate chip, Clara's favorite, and leaving one to melt untouched. The staff knew not to disturb him as he sat for precisely 1 hour, sometimes talking quietly to the empty chair across from him. "He kept track of her age," said Marjorie, a longtime waitress at Freddy's, would say things like, "She'd be starting high school now," or "She'd be learning to drive this year." Broke your heart to hear it. Officer Mercer rose to police chief, his dedication during the initial search earning him respect throughout the department. But he still kept Clara's file on his desk, a silent reminder of his greatest professional failure. He updated it periodically with any similar cases from the region, refusing to officially classify it as cold. "Some cases get under your skin," he confessed to the Pine Haven Gazette on the 10th anniversary of her disappearance. "You never stop wondering. I've worked homicides that gave me fewer sleepless nights than this missing girl." New technologies emerged: DNA testing, improved fingerprint analysis, computer databases of missing persons, but yielded nothing when applied to preserved evidence. Clara's toothbrush and hairbrush, saved by Robert in Ziploc bags, provided genetic material that entered national databases. But without a match, the science that promised resolution delivered only more questions. Clara Bennett became a cautionary tale parents told their children, a reason to keep them close, to verify their whereabouts, to suspect the worst when they were 5 minutes late. Her story changed the town's relationship with childhood itself, imposing limitations and fears that previous generations had never known. In 1990, William Thornton purchased the foreclosed Mitchell property on the outskirts of town, a modest ranch house on 3 wooded acres. At the closing, he explained he'd recently relocated for work and wanted a quiet place to settle down. The real estate agent noted his polite manner and cash payment, expediting the sale. Neighbors rarely saw the middle-aged man who drove a delivery van for regional medical supply. He kept to himself, blinds always drawn, receiving few visitors. His yard gradually overgrew, earning complaints from the Homeowners Association that he grudgingly addressed with minimal effort. He was polite, but distant, recalled Margaret Whittle, whose property adjoined Thornton's. The kind of neighbor you wave to but never really know. He worked odd hours. I'd see his van coming or going at all times of day and night. Figured it was his medical deliveries. Thornton occasionally appeared at community events, the 4th of July picnic, the Christmas tree lighting, standing at the edges, watching, If engaged in conversation, he spoke softly about the weather or local sports, deflecting personal questions with practiced ease. No one thought much of it. Pine Haven had its share of loners. He made small modifications to his house over the years, adding a shed, replacing windows, installing a security system, all with proper permits and professional contractors who reported nothing unusual about the property or its owner. If anyone noticed the occasional delivery of concrete, lumber, or specialty locks, they didn't connect these purchases to anything sinister. Annual vigils for Clara grew smaller. The 15th anniversary in 1997 drew only Robert, Chief Mercer, Jenny Wilson, home from college, and a handful of others who gathered at the town square to light candles and share fading memories. "I still think about what she'd be doing now," Jenny said, her voice catching. "She'd be 28. Maybe married with kids, maybe a published author. She had so many stories to tell." 3 weeks later, William Thornton died suddenly of a heart attack while collecting his mail. The postal carrier found him collapsed in his driveway, already beyond help. The county coroner ruled it natural causes, severe coronary artery disease exacerbated by undiagnosed diabetes. No family came forward to claim his remains. After the requisite waiting period, the bank foreclosed on the property and sent contractors to renovate before listing it for sale. That's when Mike Hawkins's sledgehammer broke through the wall, revealing a secret that had been hidden in plain sight for 15 years. Chief Mercer arrived at the Thornton house within minutes of receiving the call. He'd been having lunch at Duke's Diner when his radio crackled with the dispatcher's voice. "Possible evidence in the Bennett case," was all she said. It was enough. He secured the scene personally, his hands shaking as he strung yellow tape across the property's perimeter. The hidden room, barely 8 by 10 feet, contained a narrow cot with a stained mattress, a shelf with basic toiletries, a bucket serving as a toilet, and a small table bolted to the floor. A plastic crate held neatly folded clothes, women's sizes, not a child's. On the table sat a stack of composition notebooks, dozens of them, alongside a single plastic cup and plate. But it was the walls that haunted everyone who entered. Thousands of tally marks scratched into concrete, grouped in sets of 5. Beneath them, crude drawings, a sun, trees, a stick figure, family holding hands, and a calendar, each month meticulously created by hand, each day crossed off, spanning 15 years. It was like looking at someone's mind unraveling, Officer Daniels, first on scene after Chief Mercer, would later testify. The earliest marks were neat, precise. As you moved around the room chronologically, they became more erratic, desperate. Forensic teams worked methodically, documenting everything: the living conditions, evidence of long-term habitation, personal items that had accumulated over what appeared to be years of captivity. Each item was photographed in place, then carefully bagged and labeled. The room itself was scanned and measured, creating a 3-dimensional record of the space. The notebooks contained detailed daily entries spanning the entire period. Early pages showed childish handwriting that matured over time. They described captivity, failed escape attempts, and psychological manipulation by someone referenced only as Mr. F. August 15, 1982. Mr. F. says no one is looking for me anymore, says they think I ran away because I was unhappy. That's not true. I love my mom and dad. Please, someone find me. December 25, 1983, Christmas. Mr. F. brought me a candy bar and new socks. Said I should be grateful. I pretended to be. I hate him. April 3, 1987. Tried to scream when I heard voices outside today. Mr. F. put his hand over my mouth so hard I couldn't breathe. Said next time he'll use the needle that makes me sleep for days. I'm afraid to try again. September 30th, 1990. Mr. F. brought a newspaper today. There was a picture of Dad at a vigil for me. He looks so old now. Mr. F. laughed and said, "See? Even your father has given up hope. But I saw Dad's eyes in the photo. He hasn't given up. Neither will I." Chief Mercer called Robert Bennett personally, his throat tight as he dialed the familiar number. "We may have found something connected to Clara," he said carefully. "I need you to come identify an item." Robert arrived within minutes, his face gray with dread and hope. Chief Mercer showed him the silver bracelet recovered from the room, its delicate chain intact but tarnished with age. Robert collapsed to his knees on the driveway, clutching the evidence bag to his chest. "I gave it to her for her 13th birthday," he whispered. "It was never found during the original search. Where did you find it?" Chief Mercer hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Robert, I need you to prepare yourself. We've found a hidden room in this house. There's evidence someone was kept there for years. We don't know yet if it was Clara, but there are indications." The hidden basement revealed sophisticated security, soundproofed walls, an elaborate lock system, and a concealed entrance behind what appeared to be a solid wall. A secondary exit led to a narrow tunnel ending beneath Thornton's garden shed, allowing the occupant of the room to be moved without being seen from outside the house. The most disturbing discovery came last, a metal box hidden behind a loose concrete block containing Polaroid photographs documenting Clara's aging from 13 to 28, arranged chronologically on a hidden shelf. The final photo was dated just 3 weeks earlier, days before Thornton's death. It showed a thin woman with long dark hair sitting on the bed reading, unaware of the camera. Despite the passage of time, the resemblance to the school photo was unmistakable. The medical examiner confirmed dried blood on the mattress matched Clara's blood type from dental records preserved in the original case file. Fibers from the clothing in the room were consistent with materials from 1980s garments, some showing years of wear and repeated washing. "She might still be alive," Robert kept saying, pacing Chief Mercer's office, running his hands through his hair. "My little girl might still be out there somewhere. If she was here when he died, where would she go?" Chief Mercer formed a task force, pulling in state resources and the FBI. They connected Thornton to the ice cream truck through vehicle registration records under the alias Edward Thompson. Fingerprint comparison confirmed what seemed impossible. The friendly ice cream vendor and the reclusive medical supply driver were the same person. "He hid in plain sight," Chief Mercer told his team during their first briefing. "He created the perfect cover. Who suspects the ice cream man?" And then transformed into someone else entirely. And we missed it. For 15 years, we missed it. The team expanded its search, investigating every property associated with either identity. Bank records, employment history, known associates, all underwent scrutiny. As details emerged, a pattern of calculated deception came into focus. If this story has kept you entertained, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more mysteries. The investigation revealed Thornton's elaborate double life. Born William Edward Thornton in 1940, he maintained multiple identities across several states. Rental records showed he operated seasonal ice cream trucks in different communities for years before settling in Pine Haven. Each summer, he adopted the Mr. Frost persona, then returned to his real identity when the season ended. It was a sophisticated operation, FBI agent Kelsey explained at a press conference. He maintained separate bank accounts, driver's licenses, even different handwriting styles for each identity. He chose seasonal work deliberately. It explained his periodic absences and gave him cover for moving between identities. The van discovered in his garage contained a hidden compartment large enough to transport a child. The compartment was lined with sound-dampening material and equipped with air holes, and had apparently been used to move Clara from the ice cream truck to his home without detection. Clara's diary described being offered a special behind-the-truck tour after buying her popsicle. He said he had a new kind of ice cream he was testing, asked if I wanted to be the first to try it. I felt so special. Then everything went fuzzy. Analysis of her later entries suggested Thornton had used a fast-acting sedative, likely ketamine, which would have rendered her unconscious within minutes. By the time Jenny grew tired of waiting, Clara was already hidden in the van's compartment, beginning the nightmare that would consume her adolescence and early adulthood. Neighbors recalled occasional strange sounds from Thornton's property over the years, but complaints were never formally filed. One elderly woman, Edith Garner, admitted reporting crying sounds to Officer Martinez in 1988, but officers found nothing suspicious during their cursory check. "I thought maybe it was an animal caught somewhere," Edith explained tearfully to investigators. "I never imagined if I'd known. He seemed so normal, you know. He brought me groceries once when I had the flu." Officer Martinez, now retired, faced questioning about his cursory investigation of the noise complaint. "He invited us in," Martinez defended himself, "showed us around the main house, said he'd been having trouble with raccoons in the attic. We heard nothing unusual during our visit and had no probable cause for further search." Clara's writings detailed psychological warfare, how Thornton convinced her the outside world believed she was dead, how searches never came close, how her parents had stopped looking. He showed her newspaper clippings about her disappearance, then later, fabricated stories about her parents' divorce and their new families. He kept her compliant through a combination of fear, isolation, and occasional kindness, allowing her books, writing materials, even bringing her upstairs sometimes when he hosted neighborhood gatherings, but keeping her drugged and locked in a bedroom. May 18, 1989. Mr. F. let me sit in the backyard tonight after dark. First time seeing stars in years. Told me if I screamed or ran, he'd find my parents and hurt them. I believe him. He knows everything about them. He says he visits Mom sometimes at her new house. I don't know if that's true, but I can't risk it. November 4th, 1992, 10 years old today. Not my birthday, this room's birthday. That's what Mr. F called it. He brought cake with a candle, made me sing Happy Birthday to my prison. I did it to make him happy. When he's happy, he brings books. February 17th, 1995. Mr. F was angry today, something about work. He broke my mirror and tore up 3 pages from my notebook. I'll rewrite them when he calms down. I have to keep the story going. Someday someone will read it and understand what happened to me. Evidence suggested Thornton's heart attack had occurred while Clara was locked below. Bank records showed he withdrew large cash amounts monthly, likely for supplies. The final withdrawal was 3 weeks before his death. The basement had emergency rations, bottled water, protein bars, canned goods, suggesting Thornton had prepared for situations where he might be unable to provide for his captive. The most chilling discovery came when investigators opened Thornton's safe, a list of other towns, other ice cream routes, other names. FBI agents began cross-referencing with missing children cases across 5 states. Robert spent hours reading Clara's diaries, learning how she maintained hope through memories of family, how she marked each birthday, each Christmas alone, how she never stopped believing someone would find her. "She remembered the sound of my laugh," Robert told Chief Mercer, his voice breaking. She wrote pages about ordinary days, fishing at the lake, making pancakes on Sundays. The time I taught her to change a tire, I had no idea she was paying such close attention. The community reeled from collective guilt. How had no one noticed? How had a monster hidden among them for years? The Pine Haven Gazette ran a front-page editorial titled, "The Neighbor We Never Knew," examining how Thornton had strategically limited his social interactions to avoid scrutiny. But one question remained unanswered. Where was Clara now? 2 days into the investigation, as forensic teams continued processing the hidden room, a state police K-9 unit arrived to track any scent from the basement tunnel. The German Shepherd, trained in finding missing persons, picked up a trail that led through Thornton's overgrown backyard into the dense woods beyond. "She's trying to find her way home," Robert insisted, joining the search despite Chief Mercer's objections. She doesn't know he's dead. She's afraid he'll come after her. The search expanded into Henderson Woods, an area thoroughly combed 15 years earlier during the initial investigation. This time, they pushed farther beyond the usual hiking trails into the tangles of underbrush where few ventured. 3 miles into the woods, well beyond where the original searches had extended, the dogs alerted near an abandoned hunting cabin, a dilapidated structure with a partially collapsed roof, long forgotten since the property had been incorporated into the nature preserve. Officers approached cautiously, weapons drawn. The cabin door hung askew on rusted hinges. "Police!" they called. "Is anyone here?" Silence. Then a faint rustling from beneath a collapsed table in the corner. A woman emerged slowly from the shadows, painfully thin, her dark hair matted, wearing clothes too large for her frame. Her eyes, wide with terror, darted from face to face until they landed on Robert, who had pushed past the officers. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "Clara?" Robert stumbled forward. "Clara, is it really you?" She nodded once, tears streaming down her dirt-streaked face before collapsing into his arms. Severely malnourished and suffering from extensive psychological trauma, Clara had survived on stream water and berries after escaping when Thornton failed to return for his usual daily visit. Too afraid to approach civilization, she had been hiding in the cabin, venturing out only at night to forage for food. "I didn't know if he was testing me," she explained later from her hospital bed, tubes delivering nutrients to her depleted body. "He did that sometimes. Pretended to leave me alone to see if I'd try to escape. Once I waited 3 days before he came back, laughing at my hunger. I thought this might be another test." The reunion with Robert was both heartbreaking and healing. Clara, now 28, struggled to comprehend that her captor was dead, that she was truly free. Linda rushed back to Pine Haven from Ohio, arriving at the hospital with trembling hands and tear-swollen eyes. "My baby," she kept saying, stroking Clara's hair, "my beautiful baby girl." The media descended on Pine Haven like locusts, news vans clogging Main Street, reporters ambushing anyone connected to the case. Chief Mercer established a strict perimeter around the hospital, limiting access to immediate family and authorized personnel. "The Bennett family deserves privacy during this reunion," he stated firmly at an impromptu press conference. "They've lost 15 years. Don't ask them to share these first moments with the world." Clara's recovery began in a specialized facility for trauma survivors, a discreetly located complex with gardens, therapy spaces, and round-the-clock medical care. Physical healing came faster than psychological. She gained weight, her skin regained its color, her body healed from years of neglect and abuse. The psychological wounds ran deeper. "The hardest part," Clara confided to her therapist doctor, Sarah Winters, "is realizing how much time I've lost. I went in as a child and came out a woman, but I missed everything in between. First dance, graduation, college. I don't know how to be an adult." She struggled with ordinary aspects of modern life, cell phones, computers, fashion trends that had emerged during her captivity. The world had changed in ways both profound and trivial. The Berlin Wall had fallen, the internet had transformed communication, music had evolved from cassettes to CDs to MP3s. Clara had missed it all, frozen in 1982, while life continued without her. She described 15 years of captivity, allowed just enough care to survive, keeping hope alive through writing and small acts of resistance. She created elaborate fantasy worlds in her mind, invented games to maintain her sanity, and held tight to memories of her life before. "I used to recite my address every night before sleeping," she said. 43 Sycamore Lane, Pine Haven. "I was afraid I'd forget who I was, where I belonged." Reuniting with her parents proved complicated. They were different people now, divorced, aged by grief, changed by years of separate experiences. Clara found herself mediating between them, even as she struggled to reconnect with each individually. "I missed you growing up," Linda said one afternoon, helping Clara learn to apply makeup, a skill most women acquired in adolescence. "But I'm here now for whatever you need." "You never stopped looking," Clara told Robert, examining the wall of investigation materials in his apartment. "Everyone said you were obsessed, but you were right." 6 months after her rescue, Clara gave her first and only media interview, choosing a local reporter she'd known as a child rather than the national networks that had camped outside her recovery facility for weeks. "I don't want to be defined by what happened to me," she said firmly, her posture straight, her gaze direct. "I'm not just the girl in the basement. I survived. I'm still surviving. Every day is a choice to reclaim my life." With the settlement from the sale of Thornton's estate and a book deal she negotiated on her own terms, Clara established a foundation helping children recognize predatory behavior. She worked with schools to develop age-appropriate safety programs that educated without terrifying. "Children should know that most adults are good and kind," she explained at the foundation's launch, "but they should also trust their instincts when something feels wrong." I knew for just a second that something wasn't right that day. If I'd had the words to understand that feeling, maybe my story would be different. The investigation eventually connected Thornton to 3 other disappearances in different states spanning 2 decades. Those families finally received answers, though not the homecomings Clara's parents experienced. Genetic evidence recovered from Thornton's property confirmed the worst fears for those children. "I think about them all the time," Clara admitted during a therapy session. "Why he kept me alive when he killed the others. I'll never understand his twisted logic, and maybe that's a blessing." Pine Haven installed a memorial bench where the ice cream truck once parked, inscribed with the names of all Thornton's victims. Annual awareness events replaced somber vigils. Schools implemented the Clara's Rules program, teaching children about safe adults and warning signs. Robert and Linda never remarried each other, but they found a new relationship as co-grandparents when Clara married David Carson, a child psychologist she met during her recovery, and gave birth to a daughter named Hope. "My parents lost their child," Clara explained to David when they first discussed having children. "I want them to experience the joy of grandparenthood. I want to give them back something of what was taken." 25 years after her rescue, Clara Bennett Carson lives quietly with her family in a sunlit house filled with books, art, and open windows. She still writes daily, no longer tallying days of captivity, but celebrating freedom in journals she hopes her daughter will someday read. "I document the ordinary moments," she explained. "The first time Hope rode a bike, the sound of David laughing in the kitchen, the cardinal that visits our feeder every morning. These small joys are what sustain us. These are what he couldn't take from me, the capacity to find beauty in everyday life." On Hope's 13th birthday, the same age Clara was when she disappeared, mother and daughter visited the memorial bench together. "Mom, why don't we ever buy ice cream from trucks?" Hope asked, watching a modern version pass by, its electronic jingle a sanitized version of the classics. Clara squeezed her daughter's hand. "Sometimes beautiful things can hide ugly truths," she answered carefully. "I'll tell you the whole story someday. But for now, just remember, not everyone who smiles at you is your friend." Hope nodded solemnly, accepting this cryptic wisdom as children do. Together they walked home through the same streets Clara had once known, now transformed by time and memory into something both familiar and forever changed. "The thing about surviving," Clara later wrote in her memoir, "is that it never really ends. Every day I choose to live fully is another victory against those years in darkness. Every moment of joy is reclaiming something that was stolen. He took 15 years of my life, but he doesn't get to take one more second. If you're captivated by mysteries like this one, be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a comment below telling us where you're watching from.